Welcome to the Friday Club, apparently, here. Oh. It does kind of sound like that. Gotta move on.
I don't know.
Is that Funky Town? Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, by Lips Incorporated.
I just heard 4 on the floor, and I just had to start.
Yeah, now whenever I hear this, I'm going to think of that song. Won't you take me to? It is Mike Whitmacher alongside Johnny Molson. Thank you for joining us today. You've been a man traveling about this great country of ours.
A pleasure to be back in our fair capital city.
Yes. So I don't know if you know this or not, but today is Groundhog Day, where we rely on a rodent to tell us what the weather's going to be.
Abuse that poor animal that's just trying to get a nap.
I forgot about
yank it out by its neck.
I forgot about the video where De Blasio killed one.
Oh, what happened with that? I do remember that.
Remember, he just dropped it on its head?
Yeah.
And they killed the groundhog in New York?
Yeah.
I forgot about that, but apparently it must be some anniversary of it because that video is being shown everywhere.
Oh, nice.
You have the guys with their leather gloves up in Punxsutawney saying, hey, and apparently he did not see his shadow today.
Dressed up like a cobbler from a Dickens tale or something, and he just reaches in and grabs the poor thing by its throat.
And
there it is.
By the way, one of the worst places to hang out, Gobbler's Knob, by the way.
Gobbler's Knob.
Let us not forget that. So, but Punxsutawney Phil is not the only animal trying to figure out the weather today.
Okay.
Around the rest of the country, there are different animals that decide the weather for their particular area, and I'll go through some of them. Out in Oregon, they got the Stumptown has Phil the Beaver.
Phil the Beaver?
Yeah, Phil the Beaver. Exactly, as it were. So he's the one that tries to tell them the weather there.
Okay. And it is the same sort of thing? He just comes out and looks around?
Yes.
Or is there any
I am more in-depth on some of the other ones.
Okay.
In Texas, they have Bee Cave Bob, the armadillo.
Oh, an armadillo this time.
Yeah, armadillo in Texas is the one that's. I don't know if you touch the armadillo, though.
If it makes it across the road without getting run over by a pickup, then it's...
That it's an early spring for everybody.
Hey.
Yeah, without getting bounced around there. Connecticut, they have Scramble the Duck.
Scramble the Duck. What does Scramble the Duck have to do? Poor duck.
Kind of just looks around and says, okay, I like it. I don't know if he flies one way or if he swims one way. That's how they figure it out. New York, this is terrible. In New York, they have Cluxatawny Henrietta the chicken. You can't do that.
You're really trying to force a shoehorn in there, aren't you?
Yeah. North Carolina, they have Pigs Got Penny the squirrel. For 10 years, people in Brevard, North Carolina, have turned to a white squirrel for their weather prognostication. The center of attraction is Pigs Got Penny. In addition to the weather forecast, this busy little squirrel will also take a stab at who will come out victorious in the upcoming Super Bowl.
And again, does the squirrel have to do anything?
Yeah, it shows itself. Shows itself and then kind of either runs back into the tree or whatever it may do.
This is what I don't understand about the groundhog or any of these things is, don't they normally just come out and look around and then go back? I mean, it's not like they've picked today to do it.
Right, exactly. Why we picked today to be the day, because you're right. Every day they wake up and they just kind of poke their head out, go back in, or start scurrying around for food.
As I say, we're not patient enough to wait for it to poke its head out.
No, exactly. We got to grab it, throw it out, be like, it's time to call for the weather, Phil.
Just trying to make some eggs or do something, get its kid off to school, and somebody yanks it out of its kitchen. Like, what now?
Can you imagine poor Punxsutawney Phil is just sitting there making a nice malt waffle breakfast, like he's ready to go. He's got the waffle iron started.
Kids, get your homework done.
Go! These people
Finish brushing your teeth.
Yeah. Florida's got a burrowing owl that tells them residents in Southwest Florida say they'll pay homage to the bird that's commonly found in the Sunshine State. Biologists say the burrowing owl is one of the smallest owls in the state, but its forecasts are always very mighty, they say. And let me introduce you to the other most famous one as far as alternatives to Punxsutawney Phil. Oregon's got Foo the hedgehog. The Oregon Zoo says they're the ones
I thought
to watch.
They had Phil the beaver.
Well, that's Stumptown, Oregon.
Oh.
The Oregon Zoo has Foo the hedgehog. The Oregon Zoo says they are the ones to watch for, whether they'll be in early spring or prolonged winter. While Foo the hedgehog has only been making predictions for a few years, Folklore has it that the tradition of turning to these prickly prognosticators for weather analysis dates back centuries to old Europe.
I lived in Ohio growing up, and we had the woolly bear caterpillar.
What?
It was a caterpillar. It's all fluffy looking,
right?
And if going into the fall, it was extra fluffy, then it was going to be a bad winter.
Huh? Interesting. Yeah. Everyone would look to the caterpillar.
Yeah, you'd see one of these things walking around, and they're crazy looking. They look.
I can imagine. Yeah. It sounds absolutely terrifying.
They're like brown and black, and they look like a bear. And they're fuzzy.
Are they size of the bear then?
Yes.
A giant bear-sized
exactly
caterpillar.
The size of a bear.
Okay. I did see up in Woodstock, Illinois, apparently they have a groundhog up there that they're doing something. I saw some people sharing the photos on Instagram and Facebook and whatnot.
Leave those animals alone.
Yeah, leave them alone. All right. But if you're wondering if Phil saw the shadow or not, he did not, which means early spring.
Okay.
But they ran the numbers. Someone ran the numbers, and he's only right 39% of the time.
Yeah, well... Yeah, and even if it's 6 more weeks of winter, that's about spring.
Right. Yeah, that's about where it should be.
Yeah, that's about when it should happen, sometime in the middle of March. Idiots.
Yes. So
we're stupid.
Yeah, we really are. Gathering in Gobbler's Knob to grab a rodent out of a hole. Just let him have his French toast, all right? We'll take a break. When we come back, you've been spending a lot of time on a plane.
Yes.
And so somebody actually put together the parameters of what makes a good plane movie, a movie to watch on the plane. So it is very lengthy.
Hamburger.
It is Mike Wimmacher and Johnny Molson with you here on this Friday, February the 2nd, Groundhog Day. We just talked about all the different groundhog alternatives. Johnny, you've been traveling a lot as of late. Are you an individual who watches movies or TV shows on the plane, or are you more just kind of try to nap or catch up on work? What's your go-to?
If I'm not doing something work-ish, I usually just conk out. There is just something about that low rumble of the plane, and
very true.
And it's like I'm out.
That's a rare feat. But if you're one of those individuals who would like to watch a movie on a plane, a article on Slate is talking about what makes a good plane movie. All right. So they said Anyone But You is a new movie that came out with Sydney Sweeney. And they said when they saw the trailer for it, they thought, perfect plane movie. And they go on to discuss what makes a perfect plane movie.
This is interesting to me because, sometimes you'll sort of look over somebody's shoulder and you'll see they're watching something. And sometimes it's gory. I remember one time sitting there and I could tell like there was some sexy time coming up.
Uh-oh. You got to stay. They go into a little bit of that.
Okay, go ahead.
But yeah, that's something you kind of stay away from. They say what constitutes the perfect plane movie. It says there's several important criteria, but the most obvious is a good plane movie often features at least one scene actually set on a plane.
Oh, okay.
So they say it's a funny requirement, but one that I think is important for helping us connect with a subject matter at hand. If I'm stuck in this tin can, you should be too.
Okay.
So that's what they're saying is it's got to be at least some part of it on the plane. They say the next most obvious hallmark of a good plane movie is an element of travel to it. So you want to feel like you're kind of involved, same kind of situation. I don't care if I'm boarding a plane to Muncie, Indiana. I want to watch a movie where the characters are going to somewhere exotic. So they're like Ticket to Paradise, Crazy Rich Asians, The Last Holiday, etc. So one plane scene, they're traveling somewhere. They say another thing these movies all have in common is they take place over a short, limited time span. You don't want to get involved in something that has like intricate years and years of backstory and plot. Okay. It's kind of just
not a good time to watch Marvel movies.
Right, exactly. This isn't a time for a 30-year epic. I want something short and snappy that'll help take my mind off the fact that I'm hurtling in a metal tube through the sky toward Muncie, Indiana, which I don't know what their fixation with Muncie, Indiana is, but whatever. They say next, the performances. They go, it's not the acting that's important in these movies. It's the sense of escapism, the feeling of being distracted or transported briefly out of your seat, placed discernibly close to the restrooms at the back of the plane. They say Anyone But You supporting cast delivers some of the hammiest acting ever caught on film, but what matters is I got the sense they were having fun while filming it. So that you don't really need to have like this really intense.
Yeah, this is all making sense.
Okay. They say there's an important caveat. While our leads should be hot, The lead actors or actresses should be hot. A good plane movie shouldn't feature extensive amounts of full frontal nudity or graphic sex scenes. And there you go, to what you were saying.
So I'm sitting there, and I'm trying. I don't know if I was doing something on my laptop or what I was doing, or reading a book or something. And it was one of those things where it's like every 3 seconds I kept going, "Is she naked yet? Is she naked yet? Is she naked yet? How about now? Is she naked yet?" And I felt like such a weird creep, but it's like, it's like when you're at the beach and a girl in a bikini walks by, you just have to look.
Right, but yeah,
you just got to check it out.
As a man, it's a reaction.
It's
exactly.
Just, it's completely involuntary. Your eyeballs just go that way. And so I'm sitting here on the plane like an idiot trying to go, "Hey, would you get out of the way with your cart?
Exactly. What are you doing? Come on, move the cart.
Her boobs are there.
Come on." They say the reason why you want to, much to your point, the reason why you want to not have those in there is that you cause those sitting next to you to spit out the cheap wine that they've doled out by the flight attendants. You don't want to end up like that older gentleman who was filmed having to fast forward through the tender scenes in red, white, and royal blue. Airlines can and do censor some movies to make them appropriate as plane movies, but sometimes we as viewers have to make the call.
Well, that's a good point because, sometimes the plane is providing the movie, but you can download stuff now and bring it with you.
Right.
I watched Stranger Things on a flight, which, again, gets pretty gory, and I'm kind of hiding my phone.
Well, let me, and 217-629-7970, the phone number. Let's ask this then. We've heard the stories of parents being upset about what someone around them may be watching on the flight because their child may, to your point, get a little glimpse of it. And is that something that's a valid claim by the parent, or is it more like sans the more adult-oriented things, is it imperative upon the person who downloaded the movie to make sure they're not downloading, and this is why they're saying a great plane movie, doesn't have these things.
Right.
But can those people be held accountable? To your point, you watch Stranger Things, or let's say you are a horror movie aficionado and you want to see the new Halloween, and it gets a little gory, you're watching on your screen, and some kid behind you happens to see it.
HBO Max reboots the Red Shoe Diaries or something like that.
I had almost forgotten that was a thing. Was that the one with David Duchovny?
I think so,
okay,
yes.
All right. The fact that we both know that is kind of sad, but
right. I think you got to be cognizant of your surroundings.
Right. I would agree. Like you have to kind of know what the subject of the movie is, but I don't know. That's kind of a gray area to me.
A new thing that they've added to the announcements on planes is if you're watching something, have headphones on.
Oh, that's obvious.
Well, I know it's obvious, but they now have to make that announcement because it's not obvious.
True. There's enough. You're right. I didn't even think about that. There's enough people who are just like, I'm going to watch Die Hard.
Yeah.
With every F-bomb being thrown out at the highest volume possible. They say another important feature of a plane movie is some element of action. Whether it's a car chase or a series of jaw-dropping stunts or dramatic yet comedic helicopter rescue from the ocean, what matters is that it's a spectacle. So you want a little bit of that. Paramount element of a plane movie is it can't be something that requires one's full attention.
Yeah.
They said there's going to be something that's going to distract you. So I'm going to be simultaneously half watching New Girl reruns on the screen of the passenger in front of me, or I might even sleep after the beverage cart comes around. This is not the environment for a meaty Holocaust drama. It's time for stupidity and low stakes. And they say the final and most important requirement of a plane movie is this: it should be predictable. That you kind of know, because you're only half paying attention, the acting's not super important. It should be, if I somehow don't even get to finish it or something, I should already probably know how it's going to end.
And probably shouldn't be one of those, there are certain movies that stick with you, that kind of mess with your head a little bit, or they're just emotionally
draining.
Probably not Killers of the Flower Moon right now.
Yeah, no, right, yeah.
I mean, because it just takes a lot out of you, and then you get to your location, it's like I can't see straight.
Yeah, exactly. Because they say amid a chaotic and stressful day of travel, when so many things can and do go wrong, I want my entertainment to be safe, reaffirming, and unsurprising. They say the accidental irony of a plane movie, however, is that, funnily enough, for these kinds of safe, comforting, harmlessly mediocre films to exist for our eventual in-flight pleasure, Hollywood needs to see sufficient box office returns to keep making them. So what they're saying is, please, for the love of God, so I can have entertainment on a plane, go see these crap-ass movies. So that we can have more of them, so I can enjoy them on a plane.
And I guess when I think about scrolling through the options that the plane gives you on American Airlines or United or whatever, with that free app, they kind of fit this bill.
Yeah.
They're kind of the same sort of benign, nothing too heavy, nothing too stupid.
I remember a friend of mine must have, like, this article just came out, but a buddy of mine must have been a time traveler because on a flight to Vegas from St. Louis, he watched The Meg. And on the flight back from Vegas to St. Louis, he watched Tag.
Jeez.
I don't know if he only can watch three-letter word movies or what it was. Meanwhile, I watched like Ready Player One on my flight there. But there you go, ladies and gentlemen. When you're looking for perfect in-flight entertainment, these are the parameters that should be set. And for the love of God, don't have any boobs flopping out there.
Well, if you do, tilt the screen a little bit so I can see it.
If you do, yes, hold it up for everyone to see.
I don't have to be craning my neck going, where are they?
Yeah, so Johnny doesn't have to do a limbo and throw his back out.
Move your head. I can't see.
I know you're very tired, and I know this is a long flight, but there's a chance I just saw a nipple over there, so could you move your head, please? Thank you. It is Mike and Molson here on WMAY. We'll take a break for news. When we come back, what is a song that you want... Mike Wittmacher, Johnny Molson with you here on Friday, February the 2nd, Groundhog Day. Appreciate you taking some of your morning to tune in. We all have that song that we just cannot stand. And that's why Reddit is a nexus of the internet. And I love this particular question. And 217-629-7970 is the phone number. I want to hear from you. The question is, if you could permanently delete one song from the face of the earth, never to be played or heard by anyone ever again, what song would that be and why? At 217-629-7970. Now, some of the responses already, the first one responding online is the Cars for Kids jingle. They would jettison to the ends of the earth.
Sure.
They said no thank you to that one. Let's see. They say Yummy by Justin Bieber is another one that someone said. 217-629-7970. What's a song you would delete from Earth? Ooh, here's another good one. Baby Shark.
Oh, yeah.
Would be one.
So I mean, so far what you've identified, and this is usually kind of where it goes, is kind of these bubblegummy pop earwormy things that just sort of sneak around. I mean, nobody's really getting into the juicy ones, like for example, the wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald.
Yes,
which has no business existing.
No. Hi, you're on WMAY.
All right, guys are going to hate me for this one probably, but I'm a big Bob Seger fan, but I never, ever in the rest of my life or anybody else's want to hear old-time rock and roll.
Yeah.
I'm with you on that one.
Having played in a band for many, many years, everybody always wanted to hear when we played, and I hate that song.
Yeah.
So, anyway, that's my addition to your show today, gentlemen.
Thank you for your contribution, sir.
Yeah, that's a good choice. No one wants to see anybody else sliding into a room in their underpants. So jettison that one to outer space. Don't need to see it again.
And it's such a non-Seeger song when you think about it.
Yes.
It doesn't have that sort of ballad,
kind of, yeah.
Driving on the road, I'm lonely. And
right, the biographical kind of like,
the prostitute in Ann Arbor.
Yeah, exactly. Like that kind of thing. Turn the page. It just doesn't have that heft that it usual
not
stuff.
That he couldn't rock out, but it just for some reason, it feels like a pop song Bob Seger would do.
Correct.
Which is what it is.
217-629-7970. What is the song you would delete from the face of the earth if you had a chance? Here's one. And I'm kind of with them on this one, and it's the antithesis of the poppy earworms one. Someone said the In the Arms of an Angel song.
Oh, yeah.
Like that one is just, it's so, Sarah McLachlan is a talented artist, but that one is just so saccharine and just so like, and it's in every sad-ass commercial you can ever think of, and it's just like, just get rid of that one.
Yeah, and it's like a go-to for a funeral, and I mean, there's just ugh.
Here's a great. This is for me. Any song by this band would be jettisoned to the sun, but this one in particular, "Hey Soul Sister" by Train.
Oh yeah.
That's just a terrible. You want to talk about the most generic, vanilla, just like, hey, upbeaty song. That song is And I think, isn't that the one where it's like, he talks about the hair on his chest at one point, too? It's
the
like,
hair on his chest.
Any song where you start talking about your own body hair?
No, I'm sorry. He talks about shaving the hair on his chest.
Yes.
Is what he talks about.
Yes.
So and I think there's something to be said, too, about this notion of some of these songs, like they burn white hot. Like when Hey Soul Sister came out.
Yeah.
I mean, you could not escape
get away.
it. I mean, you were running into it down every hallway. And I think that probably kills it for a lot of people.
Look, I'm glad to see that Jim Leach is on Reddit, and the fact that someone said Christmas shoes should be jettisoned to the sun. 217-629-7970. What's the song you would delete from existence if you got a chance?
So Hotel California hasn't shown up at all?
No. Which is kind of sad. Here's another person, Wonderful Christmas Time by Paul McCartney, also needs to be jettisoned into the sun. We've talked about that before. Achy Breaky Heart. That falls in the category of white hot and just the poppy earworm. And
yeah, such an interesting scenario there, too, because a song that everybody loved. I mean, people loved that song when it came out, and then they hated it. And it was like, I don't know when it turned, but there are songs like that where it's like, oh, man, this is the best song ever. Macarena always comes up on these lists where it's like, don't lie to me. You dug the hell out of that song when it was out, and then something turned. It was like one too many, and it goes over the cliff, and now nobody wants to hear it.
Happy by Pharrell.
Oh, okay.
Someone said needs to go. That doesn't bother me as much, but someone said, oh, here it is. This is the winner. Out of all the songs we've talked about, 217-629-7970, songs you would delete from existence if you could. Here it is, ladies and gentlemen. God Bless the USA by Lee Greenwood. They say once or twice in 2001, 2002, a major event, sure. But I swear to God, they played that song every 15 freaking seconds on every radio station and every grocery store for 5 straight effing years.
He's not wrong.
No.
And you can't. You have to play it on the 4th of July. Some people have the Whamageddon thing. I've got the Lee Greenwood-ageddon on the 4th of July.
The Woodageddon?
I'm trying not to
never hear that song again. Hi, you're on WMAY.
Yeah, I would say Roar by Katy Perry. Spent an entire drive to Texas listening to that song on repeat.
Oh, yeah. That I could see where that would drain you.
How old is your daughter?
She's 18 now.
So that's about right.
7 at the time.
Yeah, that checks out.
Like, I know yours.
Oh, yeah. We all know mine. It's Lou freaking Bega.
Mambo number 5.
Mambo number 5. Straight to the moon with that one. Thanks to the phone call, okay? Appreciate it. Katy Perry one that I would jettison is Firework.
Yeah.
It's another one that just overplayed. But yeah, Lou Bega Mama number 5 needs to go.
You probably need to share your Lou Bega story because the reason... See, is it the song you don't like or is the situation around the song you don't like?
I already didn't like the song.
Okay.
But then the situation just heightened my disdain for it because even though there is scientific fact is I had one too many is the reason for the reversal of fortune. In my mind... Had that song not been played,
the song caused you to.
The song caused me to have the reversal of fortune, not the massive amount of alcohol that I imbibed at the reception. So in my mind, that is the reason why. That song hit. It was like 1, 2, 3, 4, bleh. Yeah. And then I rolled it up in the table and put it to the side.
Threw it up on a table and then rolled the tablecloth up and set it aside. And it was all Lou Bega's fault.
It wasn't that giant shot of tequila I had, and the fact that I was trying to keep up with the underage brother, the bride, where he was drinking beer and I was drinking hard alcohol. No, it was Lou Bega's fault that I had that situation transpire. Hi, you're on WMAY.
Yeah, I once heard a song about, or heard a situation about a song. I think it was Eddie Rabbit's I Love a Rainy Night.
Yeah.
Remember that, Johnny?
I do remember that song, yeah. Do you want me to...
Appreciate the phone call. Is there something alluded?
No. I don't know why the person did a drive-by there.
Click. Exactly. Click. Hey, here's where we go. Yeah. And then...
the story was, it was during... gym class when we had to do a dance routine.
Oh, I Love a Rainy Night?
And we had to do a solo.
What? What?
And I was so...
Wait a second.
Yeah.
Out of all the songs to pick to do a solo to dance,
there weren't that many choices.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't my personal choice. It was like, here are the 4 songs you have to choose from.
Okay.
And I mean, I was so mortified that I faked being sick on the day I was supposed to do it. And so I stayed at home that day. I was the last one in the list of the people who had to do
so you think you do it.
And so next time we're at gym, it's like, okay, now instead of dance, we're going to do volleyball or something actually athletic. And this dumb punk raises his hand and says, Molson didn't do his dance.
Oh, no.
So the gym teacher gets the record player out because it was a record player.
Yeah.
And Eddie Rabbitt's "I Love a Rainy Night" was the song that I had to dance to in front of everybody, and it's terrible.
Yeah.
I've just been finishing up therapy, and then
I was going to say, then that caller brought it back. He drove by and brought it back, that jerk. Some of the other ones on Reddit and 217-629-7970, songs you want to delete from the face of the earth. This one doesn't have the actual title, but they simply say that effing Ed Sheeran song they force on you at every wedding event. And we all know what they either gets walked down the aisle to, or someone walks into it. Here's one I would kind of tend to agree. I'd like to get your take on it, Johnny. Imagine by John Lennon.
Interesting. I don't have a problem with that song. I don't have a problem with that song.
You don't have a problem with that song?
I'm trying to find an excuse, and I can't find one. That's a fine song.
I Got a Feeling by Black Eyed Peas. That one can go. I would definitely agree with that. Here's one that's going to cause a lot of controversy, but I kind of agree that it's been played out. Neil Diamond's Sweet Caroline.
Oh, God, yeah. Well, yeah, that's not controversial. That's common sense.
I was going to say, I've heard enough of that because it's just wherever you go, I guarantee you put that song on a jukebox, and a good number of people are going to be
and everybody starts elbowing each other. You're going to do the ba-ba-ba? I'm going to do the ba-ba-ba. You're going to do the ba-ba-ba?
Yeah,
I'm totally going to do the ba-ba-ba. Here it comes. Here it comes. Here it comes. Ba-ba-ba.
Oh, we're going to do the so good?
Oh, we did it again.
Are we going to do the so good part? We're going to do the so good part. I'm going to do so good. Are you going to do so good?
Okay, I'll do so good with you if you do so good. So good. So good.
Yeah, shut up. Get the hell out of here with that.
God.
He's got so many better, well, I would say better songs, but he's got so many other songs, I guess. Hi, you're on WMAY.
How you doing? I'm going to have to say Meatloaf, and I forget the name of the song, but it's the one that's like 15 minutes long.
Well, that's every Meatloaf song.
Not all of them. I think you're thinking of Paradise by the Dashboard Lights, probably.
Or Anything for Love, but I won't do that.
Paradise by the Dashboard Lights just keeps going.
Yeah. They seem like they play that one a lot at weddings once the evening carries on.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, I hope not.
Yeah. Well, I think he's saying I would do anything for love.
I hope so.
Yeah. Paradise by the Dashboard Light. Probably not the one to be playing at the wedding reception later on.
Might play it on the honeymoon. But
yeah, possibly. That's something me and my friend always used to do back in the day to upset people. If we were getting ready to leave a bar, we would put in the money and then pick that song 5 times in a row, knowing that for a good 75 minutes, no one song would play on the jukebox.
You think of it, look up a John Mulaney routine where he talks about doing that very thing with What's New Pussycat like 15 times in a row, and it's a very funny routine.
That's awesome. Hi, you're on WMAY.
Hey, good morning, guys.
Hey.
You know, instead of picking one individual song, and maybe you guys being that you're not exactly old men, but you ain't kids either.
Truth.
I'll pick a genre. How about gangster rap? Just wrap the whole thing up and ship it off to the moon. I don't care where you send it.
Not a rap
Get
fan.
it out of my ears.
All right.
Well, if we're going to do that, country music can go to hell.
Yeah. That's I mean, I understand. It does. You know, you either love it or you hate it.
Yeah, exactly. Those are two genres that always kind of have those feelings.
Country and rap.
Exactly. And I can only imagine how you would feel when they had that terrible Nelly and like Tim McGraw thing, the over and over, or the Florida Georgia line thing. Where
Georgia line. How do you
equate that?
Square that circle.
Hi, you're on WMAY.
'90s rap song, "Snow Informer."
Oh, yeah. Snow Informer is definitely one that can be jettisoned. I still use it ironically whenever snow starts falling. I'm like, oh, we got a foot of Informer out there. And my wife just looks at me and goes, why am I married to you? Can I get a divorce right now? Shape of You by Ed Sheeran also on there. And here's what the Pina Colada song. Someone said needs to be deleted from the face of the earth.
I'd be okay if I never hear that again.
Same here. I mean, it's kitschy, but I don't need to hear it again. Appreciate the phone calls. It is Mike Whitmacher and Johnny Molson with you here on WMAY. We come back. We got the definitive answer yesterday on the program, but I want to throw it out to the masses. The definitive answer on Mike Whitmacher and Johnny Molson with you here on this Friday, February the 2nd, Groundhog Day.
This sounds like might be gangster rap. Is this gangster rap?
Get rid of it.
Get rid of it.
It's scaring me. They're talking about things and stuff. Everybody has their preferences, though. So if that's what you want to get rid of, then. By the way, did you see? I was it's just so dad jokey. But have you seen the meme involving Eazy-E? Where there's a picture of Eazy-E, and then there's another picture of Eazy-E with a P in front of it, and then there's a lemon, and then there's someone squeezing it.
Oh, boy.
I think we all know what that means. I knew what it meant right away, and it made me laugh and made me chuckle, so I thought I'd share. 217-629-7970 is the phone number. Yesterday, we were fortunate enough to have Caitlin Bostic from the Girl Scouts of Central Illinois in to talk about cookies. Now,
cookie time.
Yeah, it's cookie time. You can find all the social media page for the Girl Scouts, but now they're going to be out and about physically selling the cookies. That starts today. And I asked the question to her, and now I'll pose it to the masses, because there's only one correct answer. When it comes to Thin Mints, from the freezer or from the box? And the definitive answer is Thin Mints are best consumed from the freezer, not straight from the box.
I don't think I've ever done that. I know I've heard of that, but I don't think I've ever done that. I've heard it's wonderful. I have not done that. Because I don't have the patience to wait for them to freeze.
I was going to say.
I just eat a sleeve.
Well, right. That's also the way you consume that.
That's the way you
exactly.
consume
Yeah, you can't just have 4 at a time. You eat an entire sleeve. But 217-629-7970. Thin Mints, from the freezer or straight from the box? And the only correct answer is from the. It's life-changing, my friend. You need immediately. I went. So they were nice enough to bring in some of the cookies. They gave me first dibs on. They brought one of each. I got first dibs because I was the first person interview. Yeah. I took Thin Mints immediately. That's the go-to. And then I took what used to be tagalongs, but now are peanut butter patties. Those are the two that I took. I didn't want to be greedy and take more than that. And so I got home yesterday, and the first thing I did was throw the 2 sleeves of Thin Mints into the freezer. And they're going to be gone by tomorrow afternoon. Because you're right, you consume them a sleeve at a time.
Yeah. I think that's the reason I've never put them in the freezer is because that takes time. That takes a time away from eating the Thin Mints.
I will give you that, but 217-629-7970, freezer or room temperature. And here's the thing. I will say this. Once you go freezer, you can't go back to room temperature.
I hear you.
So maybe you've actually done yourself a favor because you can consume as soon as you get them home. Whereas now I look at them with disdain. Like, I'm still not going to turn down a Thin Mint.
Yeah.
But I kind of look at them with disdain if they're room temperature.
It's kind of how I feel about people who eat a raw Pop-Tart.
Well, I eat those.
That's what I mean.
You look at me with disdain?
Yeah.
Over the raw Pop-Tart?
Oh, yeah. First of all,
no.
Okay.
You're
gonna get salmonella.
Wait a second here.
And now the dramatic music.
It's because now we have confrontation. There is conflict in this conversation. You don't want to wait to put them in the freezer, but you'll wait for the toaster for your Pop-Tart?
What are you talking wait? It's like a 45 seconds.
The Pop-Tart is consumed straight from the package.
Yuck.
What do you mean, yuck?
Yuck.
No, that is the delicious way to do it.
Do you see that guy that's eating raw chicken every day?
No.
Yeah.
No, that guy's gross.
That's exactly what you're doing. You're eating raw chicken. You are a raw chicken eater.
I guess, technically, to be honest with you, at the Pop-Tart bowl, the Pop-Tart himself did sacrifice himself in the toaster.
Yuck.
So if he's willing to do it, maybe I should try the Pop-Tart straight from the toaster. These are hard-hitting questions we answer here on WMAY. It is Mike and Molson here on WMAY. You made it to Friday. Congratulations. Just going to make it through the rest of the day, and then you got the weekend. 217-629-7970 is the phone number. I've been having this discussion as of late, and it's been popping up a lot online, too, of the movie Back to the Future, which, Johnny, I know you have not seen, but you understand the concept of it and everything else. You understand
Something
the plot.
about a flying skateboard and
yes. Where we're going, we don't need roads and all that kind of stuff.
White kid invents rock and roll somehow.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then it makes out with his mom or she's.
I got it now.
Yeah, so you got the ins and outs. Yeah. But the reason why people are kind of discussing it is the original came out in 1985. And so Marty McFly went back in time 30 years to 1955. And obviously, we all know there is a vast difference between life in 1955 and life in 1985. Really stark contrast.
Yeah.
If they were to make that movie today, Marty McFly would be going back to 1994. And so a lot of people are questioning, would it be as popular of a movie, or would there be as much of the fish out of water situations that he finds himself in 55 from living in 85, as opposed to living in 2024, going back to 1994.
I wonder if it has to do with living through that decade. I mean, if you were alive and an adult during the 90s and now here it is 2024, we all have this feeling like, oh yeah, that was just it was a couple of years ago.
Right.
But I think growing up as a kid, none of us lived through the 50s. We were 70s and 80s kids. And so does 1994 seem as far away to kids today as 55 felt to us?
Yeah, because McFly was like 17, the character Marty McFly was like 17, 18 years old. So would a 17 and 18-year-old feel as disconnected going back in time 30 years as McFly did?
I'm sure we could point to a bunch of things. Nobody was really online as much, I should say, in 94. It was AOL chat rooms. And so, there'd be a lot of different stuff.
Yeah, the look of cell phone was vastly different. Hi, you're on WMAY.
Johnny, you really make me look forward to Fridays whenever you're on the air, man.
Just me?
So,
okay.
Yeah.
Well, I get to talk to Mike every day now.
Okay.
So,
yes,
that's even better too.
Pleasure to be here.
Yes. I don't think so. The past would change. Yes. Obviously, there is that, but the future would stay exactly the same because we haven't progressed at all.
Interesting. Okay.
Because you wanted a hoverboard, and the only hoverboard we have isn't really a true hoverboard at all. And, Jaws 32 that came out in the movie is still Jaws 32.
Right.
We have 3D, but we don't have, like, the astral projection that it had in the movie there.
True.
So I think the future, whenever McFly goes to the future, would stay exactly the same.
Huh. Interesting take.
Yeah, okay. I can see your argument.
Appreciate the phone call there, EJ. 217-629-7970 is the phone number. Would Back to the Future, the original one, be as impactful? Because if we were to shoot it today, Marty McFly would go back to 1994. And would there be that many fish out of water things like there was going from 85 to 55? I just don't know if there's as many giant cultural changes that transpired between 55 to 85, between 94 to 2024.
I think because we lived it. And we don't
really.
I think because you can't see the forest. Here, I'll give you an example. I was telling a story to my daughters, and I happened to mention that I worked at Blockbuster.
Yeah.
And they were blown away. As if I had said I worked for Northrop Grumman during the Apollo mission.
Okay.
They thought that was the most amazing thing that I was employed by a video store at one point.
You bring up I didn't think of it. You're right. I didn't think of it that way of if someone were to go back to 94 from here as a teen, following the plot line of Back to the Future, it would be interesting the fact that whereas Marty McFly, right, at one point in 55 says, oh, I've seen that episode of Honeymooners. And I was like, what do you mean? Oh, it's and then he stops and realizes
have to explain.
Because of the fact that we have so many streaming services. One, they would be thrown off of what are you doing with cable TV? Like where's your streaming services? But then like with Friends or whatever it may be, they would have the same kind of thing of, oh, I've seen that one, but what do you mean you've seen that one before? It's new to us. So that particular situation would have its equivalency back in 1994.
Look, if you were born in 2000 and you're 24 years old now, your formative years were really, in the 2010s, when Obama was in office. And so so saying things like, President Clinton is like saying President Eisenhower to us.
Yeah.
And it just sounds like another world. But I don't know. We lived through it, so I don't know if I can. It's a hard thing to get.
Yeah, 217-629-7970. How do you think it would be if they made Back to the Future now? Would there be as many fish out of water situations? I'm trying to think fashion-wise, because that was one of the other things, too, from Back to the Future from 85 to 55. The fashion was vastly different. I'm trying to think how vastly different fashion is now to back. I guess the bigger jeans.
The bigger jeans, the flannels.
I didn't even think about that. Yeah.
What were girls doing at the time? There was a lot of. If you look back at pictures, because that fashion's kind of making its resurgence, and so it's kind of like the 90s, but it's not quite like the 90s.
Yeah. The more I start thinking about it, you're right. It's like the interesting part though is. And not to say that there wasn't still artists from the 50s that were still recording stuff in the 80s, but there's a lot of bands that are still somewhat relevant now in 2024 that are relevant in 94. So there wouldn't be like, for instance, one of my favorite bands, Green Day. They're celebrating the 30th anniversary of Dookie. So if a high school person who has knowledge of Green Day would go back to 1984, Green Day would still be there.
But just starting out.
Right.
So you could see a picture of Dave Grohl and say, oh, hey, it's that lead singer from the Foo Fighters, and make a joke about that, and people wouldn't go, what do you mean lead singer from the Foo Fighters?
Oh, that's right, yeah, considering when that would have been. So it just...
There's probably stuff.
Yeah, I think you're right.
It's hard, because we were there.
Because we lived, it was my formative years, so basically, I would be in 94 what the Marty McFly character would be. So you're looking at someone who was born in 2006, and you're then pushing them back to 1994.
I just don't know. I don't know. I remember, I think we all remember watching Happy Days and thinking, the 50s were this completely other time. And it wasn't. It was just, 20 years earlier when that show was popular.
And it's funny, too, because some of the shows that would be on TV in 1994, right, or some shows that were still to come, they may be thrown off of thinking, Modern Family was a 90s sitcom, right? And so you're like, or they could see reruns of The Cosby Show on and go, whoa, that guy was on TV all the time? Right. Wait a second, I'm not quite sure about that.
We're applauding?
Yeah, exactly. What are we doing laughing at this dude? It's a fascinating conversation, and I think you're right. I think it's hard to kind of get the correct perspective if you live through it. Yeah. But it's still crazy to think that's 30 years ago.
It is.
When you bring it up, 85 to 55, you think, oh my God, that's just so polar opposites, and that's why they made them. And if you were to do it now, like 94 and 2024, not that different.
I can imagine somebody in their 20s today thinking the 90s were quaint. And naive.
Exactly.
And, pre 9/11 and all the other things that come with the 90s.
I think they'd be blown away if they went to an airport.
Yeah.
Right. You just you're like, what? I don't have to go through this, and my shoes aren't off, and everything else.
Light up a cigarette.
Exactly. I could just go through that. Like that would throw them for a loop.
Back in the day when a president would have an affair and it was actually a scandal.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Not like sleeping with porn stars. And
right. Exactly.
That's no big deal. Happens every day.
Yeah.
This is weird.
Yeah. Or the fact you have a giant block cell phone or something.
Right.
Hi, you're on WMAY.
Hey, what's up?
Hey.
One thing I see is vehicles. The difference between 1950s vehicles and 94 vehicles or today's vehicles is huge. But I've got a 94 truck that I drive once in a while just to haul stuff, and it still fits in basically.
Yeah. you bring up a good point. I don't know if the vehicles, like, we have the push button start and that kind of thing that may, having to turn the key. And if you had a window that you actually had to roll down in 1994, that may throw the youth off a little bit.
We didn't really have GPS at that point,
that's true.
You had a map in your glove compartment.
Oh, God, yeah. Now I kind of want to see it.
You had a map in your glove compartment that was right next to the cigarette lighter that had nothing plugged into it except a cigarette lighter.
Or it would have the if you only had the tape deck, it had the thing so you could make it your Discman play CDs through the car. So maybe there's more to it than I thought.
There's probably something there that you could
so
play off of it. I don't know.
Definitely an interesting discussion, and like I said, to kind of try to think it through. It's like it still doesn't seem like it was 30 years ago.
We're just all old and dying. We're just turning into bark while we're sitting here, just floating away into nothingness.
And ladies and gentlemen, Johnny Molson's become Ed Asner all of a sudden in front of our eyes.
God.
Oh, the murder and bloodletting. We'll see if someone enterprising filmmaker decides to do a reboot at some point and how that ends up going for them. We'll take a break. When we come back, there was a situation that arose for these poor people who moved from Illinois. It is Mike and Molson here on WMAY this Friday.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, buddy. I like your excitement level. That's very nice. It's Friday, so everyone should be excited, and we're supposed to actually get some sunshine at some point this weekend and temperatures in the 50s. I made the warning to people, and I think it's warranted that because of the fact we're going to have sunshine and 50s, there's going to be more people out in your neighborhood. So if you're one of those individuals that does not like to be social with the neighbors, you may want to pick and choose when you head outside. Because it's almost like bears kind of waking up from hibernation. Have you ever had that situation where you go outside like, hey, neighbor, I haven't seen, like, you kind of still see them in passing, but you don't as much in the winter because everyone just goes immediately inside?
Yeah, you peek your head out the door and you see, it's like, oh, yeah, that's right, you live next to me.
Right.
I haven't seen you in about 8 months.
I mean, I know there's people dwelling
there, and I see your car, but it's like, oh yeah, you're the. That's right. Okay.
Yes.
And your name is.
So yes. So I just warn you that that's going to happen. Speaking of neighborhoods, here's a couple that moved from Chicago to a rental home in Savannah, Georgia, less than a year ago, and now they don't want anything to do with the home. Here's what transpired, all right? They encountered a bat in the house, the first encounter on January 18th of last year, all right? After several more bat encounters occurred in the ensuing days, the family soon found the house was infested with bats.
Oh, no kidding.
So one bat flies through and they go, oh, maybe that's just a byproduct of moving from the big city to Savannah and maybe just an old house. And then they see another. How many bat encounters do you have to have before you call in the authorities or call in an expert?
And you know what's mind-boggling is how many bats exist.
Yes.
There are a lot of bats.
Have you ever seen them just kind of all at once awaken? I've been over by the Nelson Center, and all of a sudden it's just like I walk out of hockey, and it's like, oh, those aren't those. That is not a bird. That is not a group of birds flying above me.
Same in Washington Park. Oh, we just talked to somebody from the Muni. I've been on the Muni stage and got buzzed by a bat.
It's harrowing.
And what's crazy is with as many bats that there are, you almost never see them. I mean, it's like it's a surprise when you see them.
Yeah,
it's
you're
not
like,
it's not like when you see a squirrel or something. It's gone. There's another squirrel. But there are multiples more bats than there are squirrels.
Yes.
And you never see them. But then you buy a house and it's infested with bats. My God.
Yeah. After like the second encounter or third encounter, you go, maybe there's a little too much. I will share. Well, you had a harrowing bat story. One of the first ever Mike and Molson Too Good for Radio podcasts. Yeah. You check them out. We have the entirety of them there. You can just search it wherever you find your podcast. So you have that harrowing experience with a bat. I remember walking into an older classroom when I was in college, and there was a bat hanging from the doorway because it was daytime, and so it was just sleeping there in the doorway, and just the amount of people going, what do we do? we don't want to wake it up. Don't disturb it. And it's like trying to do a lecture. Like everybody's like, the teacher's like, we're going to talk like this today because we don't want to wake up the bat.
I came home once and I'm just kind of shutting the door and I've got things and I something out of the corner of my eye. I saw just something. I was like, oh, what the heck was that? And I couldn't see it. And a couple minutes later, I walk into the bedroom and there was a laundry basket on the floor, and the bat was just sort of hanging off the edge of the laundry basket, just hanging out.
Hanging out, doing his bat
doing
thing.
Nothing, yeah.
Well, so after several more encounters with the bats during the ensuing days, the family soon found the house was infested with the flying animals. They said exterminators who viewed the home told her the situation is, quote, worse than anything they had ever seen.
Gosh.
The couple had their 2 young children who are now staying with a neighbor and have received several rabies shots on the recommendation of the health district. They're attempting to raise money for relocation costs. That's how extreme this There was a picture shown, and it was bats upon bats upon bats up in the attic.
Well, there's a big not an attraction, but it is like a tourist spot in Austin. There's a bridge, and at certain times in the summer, right at about sundown, bats just take off from there. And there's like hundreds of thousands of them living under this bridge. You wouldn't know they're there. And at a certain time at night in the springtime, they know there's mosquitoes out there, and off they go. And so everyone kind of sits and waits for this thing to launch, and it is bananas to see.
Have you seen it?
I haven't. No, okay. I've seen footage of it, and it is just such a massive cloud of bats.
People going there in their Batman costumes are like, I'm going to get the shot. I'm going to do the thing. I'm going to do the thing. The city of Savannah issued a code ordinance violation and posted to the property. The city spokesperson said code enforcement officials are working together with the landlord to resolve the bat. You just burn it down, right? You can't go back. You can't go back.
It's the bats now. It belongs to them.
Right. Well, you know what? Right. Give it to them. It's an entire bat house. It's don't burn it down. Allow the bats to live in harmony in that house. It's theirs now. They've marked their territory. Hi, you're on WMAY.
Did nobody do a walkthrough on this house? I mean, how do you buy a house
that's a great point.
Invested? I mean, and did it not exist before? Didn't the neighbors go, don't buy that house. I'm looking to move anyway because that's the bat house.
Right. I don't want to be bat house adjacent. They're going to move into my house.
The bat.
I don't know if
that's crazy.
Are they
it is badass crazy. I appreciate the phone call. That's a great point. They were just renting, so I don't know if you do a walkthrough before you rent the property. You just kind of but now it makes me want to if and when I move to make sure to ensure that I don't have that kind of thing going through. Like I'm sure you're a fine and reputable landlord, but let's send somebody through there first before I get a bat infestation.
But I think about all the time. Do you have an attic in your house?
Yes.
How often are you up there?
Not nearly enough.
Yeah.
I went up there one time to try to store things, and I realized that the Pink Panthers, whatever it was,
the insulation.
The insulation just went wild. Like it looked like a foam party was up in my attic. Like I have more kind of than anybody ever should.
Yeah, and I think everybody should know. There are things up there. There are animals up there. Everybody.
Not only that, but I have a crawl space. And I have not been down there in a while either.
Yeah.
I know what's down there.
Of course.
Because I had a friend of mine. He was training to be a U.S. Marshal down in Georgia. They were getting ready to move to D.C. where he's going to be stationed next. And so they were putting the house on the market. And they had the home inspector coming through.
Yeah.
And they had some like moldy cardboard or something that was found down in the crawl space.
Right.
So he's like, hey, I don't want the wife to be crawling around the crawl space. Can you do me a solid? You're small enough. Can you go down the crawl space and clear it out for me? And I was like,
no.
I was like, sure. I wore like 18 layers of clothing. I had like 2 pairs of garden mitts, goggles, everything, like the hooded sweatshirt pulled to where all you saw was the goggles. I extricated the moldy cardboard or whatever, but then I'm like, you know what? I'm down here. Yeah. Let me go ahead and see and just crawl around. Harrowing. I never knew what was lying next at the next place.
In your house.
Right, underneath the home.
Living with you.
Yeah, underneath the house. Thankfully, nothing jumped out,
right.
But I did happen upon the deteriorated skull and bones of some type of rodent. I'm not quite sure what it was. I just saw the dead...
With a note next to it saying, tell your friends.
And I'm like, this is like straight out of Poltergeist.
Yeah.
I'm like, what do I do? Do I move these bones?
No, you don't.
So I was just like, what do I... So I get out. I get out of the crawl space and immediately go, I saw some things, to the wife, and she goes, and so we call the husband. I'm like, do you want me? He's like, yeah, throw those away. I'm like, it's on you. If anything, if the house implodes, it's on you. So then I had to pick him up and put it into a bag, and it's just, yeah. But those are the things that are happening above or under your home at any time.
We're all cohabitating.
Yes. Hi, you're on WMAY. Hello. Going once, going twice. So yes. So just be aware of that particular situation, that if you go up there, don't be surprised, but hopefully it's not a bat infestation unlike we've ever seen before. We take our last break, we come back. How often do you find yourself barefoot?
I try to avoid that.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, because there's a couple who are bringing barefoot back, is what they say. And and the way they're doing it to stay within cultural norms. It just gets worse and worse. That's true, because we're only 7 minutes away from the rest of the broadcast day. It is... Did I say that out loud? I'm sorry. It's Mike and Molson here on WMAY. On a Friday, February the 2nd, if you're just tuning in, Punxsutawney Phil did not see his shadow. So that means, I never know what means what, but all we know is people are rejoicing that we're getting an early spring. So yay for the rodent. But boo for this. There is a couple out of Cleveland, Ohio, who in a recent online video showed themselves removing the bottoms of every one of their shoes. Their shoes collection was valued at $20,000 between the two of them. And there is an intricate video of this doofus and his lady friend, all right? They have all their shoes splayed out on the floor, and he's got like a little mini rotary saw. And he's got his goggles on and everything else, and they are systematically cutting out and sawing off the soles of their shoes.
Okay.
Because
I think I saw pictures of this, but I didn't know what the heck it was.
Because they say, and they quote, "The new age of barefoot walking has begun, and I couldn't be more excited or thankful."
Why don't they take their shoes off?
Well, because here's the thing. Us shoeies.
Oh, the shoeies, yeah.
I'm going to call us the shoeies, as it were. Us shoeies would look at them differently if they were just walking around barefooted everywhere. So to fit in with the shoeies, they are now just using their shoes as a shell to cover their bare feet.
Right.
But what they're actually walking on underneath the shoe is their bare feet. So, like, at the end of the video, they have shoes on, but then they both put their feet up and go, look what we're doing. We're actually walking barefooted around a major metropolitan city. Is that the dumbest thing you've ever heard? And the most gross thing?
Are these folks also vegan, gluten-free, and CrossFitters?
I'm sure. I don't know about the CrossFitting part, but I guarantee they're the gluten-free, vegan, everything else people.
The people that just have to talk about the things that they're doing.
Correct.
To let everyone, including cutting the bottoms of their. Have you on the opposite side of this though?
Because when is bare? Here's the thing: the only time bare feet are acceptable are in your own shower or maybe even a hotel shower, and if you're a child running through the grass.
Right.
Those are the only times being barefoot are acceptable, period. End of list.
Yeah, you better be just about to jump in a pool.
Correct. That's the other time,
Or run into the ocean or something.
Yeah, on a beach, I guess barefoot is okay, too. But walking around in a major city and why even to your point, why even spend all that money on shoes? Because now all of a sudden...
Well, now that you explain it, I understand, but...
They have $20,000 worth of worthless shoes now.
Have you, on the other side of it, you think about in our evolution, most of our evolution, we were barefoot, walking around in the woods and doing stuff. And you realize how infrequently you are barefooted when you're barefooted. if you do for some reason need to walk out onto your own sidewalk or the grass or something, it's like, ow, 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 oh, ouch, ow, and you're doing it on your toes and stuff. It's like there's no callous buildup on our feet.
None at all.
It's like we're all babies.
And you bring up an interesting point of we've all been there where like a package or something is delivered, then they maybe put in your mailbox instead of on your actual doorstep, and you're bare because you're walking around your own home barefooted, and it's for some reason you treat, and even if it's not hot out, you treat the entire bit of concrete like it's lava.
It hurts.
Like you tiptoe around like it's like why do we do that?
I know because we never do it. Because I think these people might have, maybe that's their point, is this is what our feet were made for, is to be out in the wilderness.
Instead of walking like a normal human, I tiptoe out there like, I don't want to get my feet dirty. I don't want to get my feet dirty to run all the way out there. It's like, what the hell am I doing here?
Yeah, but if you step on the tiniest, like a little chunk of mulch gets out from under
God, it's awful.
Ow, ow, ow.
Or the phenomena of when you're walking out to get the mail in your bare feet because you're too lazy to put on a flip-flop or something, and the tiniest little pebble.
Doesn't take much.
It doesn't take much to go, this is the worst thing ever.
Yeah.
It's such a terrible pain.
We are so fragile.
Yeah. And you're right. Maybe that's what they're onto. Yeah. Have you ever seen and I always thought, it kind of threw me for a loop. Have you ever seen the guys who golf barefoot?
No.
There's a certain segment of golfers who are just like, I want to feel one with the grass and with the fairway and everything else, and they go out and they golf with their bare feet, and it throws me for a loop when I see it. I'm just like, all right, cool, you're in the grass, but can you not afford to?
Because you do see babies and toddlers do that, and then you try to follow along and take your shoes off, and
Same thing.
Grass is not soft.
No.
It looks like it's so nice and plush, and you see it in pictures and stuff. It's like, it's not soft.
No.
It's not soft at all.
No, you learn that.
It hurts. Grass hurts.
It does. You learn that lesson when you get your first slip and slide.
Right.
Because slip and slide makes it look like, oh my God, this is so much fun. And the first time you get that slip and slide and you throw it out there and you dive onto it like, yay, and you break a rib, you know immediately that the grass is not as soft as one thinks it is. So we'll see. You can find the video if you want of these two idiots cutting off the sole of their shoes, walking around Cleveland so they can fit in with the shoesies. So we'll see if that trend catches on. I'm thinking probably not. Appreciate you, Johnny, coming in today. Appreciate the listeners as well. We may have a bonus episode of the podcast, which will be all of this compacted into one, coming out next week. But we do have a new episode of the podcast later on today. It's the Mike and Molson Too Good for Radio podcast.